Hi, boys and girls. Your old pal Stevie Coyle here, webcasting from Mighty Fine Guitars in bucolic Lafayette, California. A couple of little guitars to show you today. Oh, excuse me. No, I'll do that later. A couple of little guitars to show you today. This one just came in. It's a Martin. It's an 016 NY. It's a New Yorker. And it's from 1972. Now, not to jump into the geekery right away, the arcana, the esoterica right away, but I typically am not particularly interested in Martins from the 70s. The 70s were not Martin's finest decade, if I could be so bold as to make that comment about a fabulous guitar company. The 70s is when things were getting really heavily built. Martin was getting clobbered on this kind of panoramic warranty that they had on all their really lightly built guitars from decades previous. And so they started building the guitars heavier, which compromised the sound, I think it's fair to say. And also some of their jigs, particularly on the dreadnoughts, some of the bits that they used to build the guitars were getting very worn. And so there are lots and lots of Martins, the dreadnoughts in particular, from the 70s, which were heavily built anyway, where the bridges were on in the wrong place, which is not an awful thing if you only play in first position, if you only play what they call the cowboy chords down here, kind of the first batch of chords that a lot of folks learn. But if you try to move up the neck into the meedly zones up here, you found that the notes were not true. You sounded out of tune to yourself. So there were lots and lots of repairs done, and lots of repairs not done on Martins from the 70s. But this is an O. This is 1, 2, 3 sizes down from the dreadnought. Beautiful little guitar, just wonderful. And very lightly built, weighs next to nothing. Mahogany back and sides, very simple on the binding, and designed originally, decades before, to be strung with either nylon strings or steel string, or very, very light steel strings, silken steel they call it, where the two treble strings, of course, are steel. The rest of the strings that are wound around a silk core, a fiber core, instead of around a steel core, which effectively, again, sorry for the geekery, but that's kind of what this little webcast is about. What that means is there's much less tension on the top of the guitar. Of course, when you string up a guitar, you're applying a tension to the top. The tendency of the top is to come up this way. If you strung this with regular steel strings, phosphor bronze or 80-20 bronze strings, which would be the recommended strings for most Martin guitars, the bridge would either pop off or you might split the top. There's too much pressure for the top. So with light strings, like these silken steel strings, this is the proof's in the pudding, as I always say. That sounds great. That sounds much bigger and louder than it ought to. Just my expectation is exceeded tremendously on this little guitar. Wonderful, just remarkable. Really lovely. A totally easy play. A lot of folks these days are looking for guitars, and let's face it, men of a certain age and girth, shall we say, are looking for a guitar that they can slouch on the couch with. A little tough to do that with a dreadnought, that would sit up high on the lap because the waist of the guitar is so wide, and because the lower bout is so wide, and because the depth of the guitar is so great. So sitting on the couch, you're kind of like Kilroy, trying to play guitar and watch your binge watching, whatever you're doing on Netflix or Amazon there, or watching sports and stuff. But this sits real pretty. It's a 12-fret guitar, so a little less access to the very, very highest notes up here. But the trade-off is that the bridge is in the center of the lower bout down here. As I mentioned on previous weeks, probably all of them, I'm a big fan of 12-fret guitars because of the sound you get. It's a different sound. Picture a drum head that sits right here on top of the lower bout of the guitar. Picture that as a drum head. If you tap that drum head off to the side, you'd get one tone. But if you tapped it right in the middle, you'd get another, much deeper, much more punch, much more volume. And that's what happens when you change a guitar from what has become fairly standard in recent decades, from a 14-fret guitar where the bridge is up closer to the sound hole. When you shorten the neck down to a 12-fret, the bridge moves down into the middle of the lower bout. And this guitar just proves the proof is in the pudding and in the playing. Lovely little thing. 1972, Martin 016 NY, New Yorker. And I hate to talk prices here, but this is such a steal. $23.50 for this guitar is really something. It's got that old vibe. It doesn't feel like a Martin from the 70s, if that's not too crass to say. Because a lot of Martins from the 70s feel big and heavy and clunky, and sometimes they don't intonate properly. And this one is just quite a little lovely little beast. And well played, well loved. It's got some character. The top has got some crazing. The finish is just a little bit cloudy, which is fine. It's just the way you want a guitar that's, I was going to say 10, 15 years old, but the 70s apparently is longer ago than that. There's a clerical error somewhere. Heads will roll down in the clerical department here at Mighty Fine Guitars. I also wanted to show you a couple of more guitars, actually, since I have this one sort of handy here. Jamie Kinscherff. He calls this a parlor. It's much more the size of a double O. I'll play it. You'll hear it sounds different. Oh, somebody was playing a dadgad. This is an alternate tuning here. Lovely, lovely sound. Again, a 12-fret guitar. A whole lot more kind of upper bout here than is typical. The whole topography of this guitar is somewhat different from others. The sound hole is kind of pushed way back towards even south of the waist a little bit, and the bridge is kind of a little bit radical. It's rosewood back and sides, lovely East Indian rosewood, mahogany neck, and just another little sweet guitar to sit on the couch with. In fact, I'm going to capo this up a little bit. What's that?
Doesn't Van Halen do a song called Little Guitar?
Van Halen is well outside my realm of experience. I would have to say yes. Van Halen has a song called Little Guitar. I don't know. Oh, I should have. How rude I am. Folks, if you have any questions, by all means pipe up. Type them right in there. Personing the equipment today is my own dear Valerie May, Miss Valerie May, Mistress of the Machines. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And is our pal John from New York online by any chance?
John?
Yeah, John Mooney. Just had to ask. Had an old college friend stop by here just a few minutes ago. If any of you are Santa Clarans, hit me up for the name of the fellow, and we'll tell you all about him. Wonderful musician himself. Yes, question in the back?
A comment.
Yes.
The Bob Ross acoustic guitar.
Oh, no. Time for a haircut. Wow. Time for a haircut. Wow. Let's put a happy little tree right over here. No mistakes. Just happy little accidents. Get the scissors out, Ducky. It's a haircut right after the show here. Oh, speaking of which, if you're doing nothing and you live in the San Francisco Bay Area, particularly the East Bay, tonight at 8 o'clock at the Unitarian Universalist Church on Eckley Lane in Walnut Creek, I'll be playing with Glenn Houston, formerly of Houston Jones. We have formed a duo called The Quitters. I'll be playing fingerstyle, right-handed and right side up, and Glenn Houston will be playing left-handed and upside down and flat picking. And it turns out pretty good. Somehow that all kind of blends in the middle and works out pretty well. Come on by and see us. It's at the UU. It's called the Devil Mountain Coffee House. It's the name of the event. The venue is Unitarian Universalist Church up there. You can see it, be able to spot it because they'll be burning a question mark on the lawn right before the show, I'm sure. Kinscherff guitar. Oh, thank you, dear. Thank you. Great. And 3750. This one's actually been in the shop for a little bit. Make me an offer on the Jamie Kinscherff. Lovely guitar. Small body guitars are kind of where it's at. So many folks nowadays are realizing that the story we all told ourselves back in the 70s and the 60s and the 50s for some of us, that it wasn't a guitar unless it was a dreadnought, we were at least half wrong. You know, those guitars served really well to play outdoors and really loud and with lots of bass and with other instruments. But those of us that moved into fingerstyle guitar and could use a little wider fingerboard, a little more real estate in the left hand, have realized that the smaller bodied guitars that tend to have the wider fingerboards suit us better. And the comfort is the primary function. So many folks come in and say, you know what, I don't know what happened, but my old pal dreadnought guitar just doesn't feel comfortable anymore. Well, no, it was perhaps too big for you, even then, but you didn't mind. But now that you've got a little wear and tear on your joints, your shoulders and elbows, reaching around and up and over, a dreadnought guitar is bad for you and is a disinclination to play your guitar. The biggest disinclination to play the guitar, by my lights, is the case. So if you can get your guitar out of the case and have it up on a stand or hanging on the wall where you can get it, absent little kids and big dogs, keep the guitar out if you can. And another disinclination is the size of that thing. It's probably, if it feels too big, it is too big. That's it. Comfort is key. Comfort is the first consideration. Why, yes, a question back there.
Is the Martin still available? And what was the price?
The little Martin is still available. $2,350. $2,350 is a fantastic price for this guitar. It really is. If I was going to go down the rabbit hole and start buying guitars out of my own shop, which I'm not, I'd be thinking about this one. One more little guitar I want to play for you. Last week I played the big red tricone, that big red Paduke tricone. And that was built by a gentleman named Michael Propsom. And here's another Propsom. This is a size 1. This is a real live parlor guitar. When people talk about parlor guitars, technically the term is a Martin term that means anything smaller than an O-size guitar. And this is a size 1. This is figured sapele. And I don't know if you can see how 3D this is, but it's just quite remarkable.
Tilt it down.
Down that way?
A little bit.
A little bit like that? Is that a better look? Look at all that figure. This is one of those ones that looks like one of those kind of postcards from the 50s where you'd shake them a little bit and the surfer would kind of do his thing or the hula girl would do her thing. This is like one of those lenticular figure.
You're reflecting the door and there, that's better.
That better? Very good. All right. And what makes this one kind of cool and a little bit Klingon is check out that heel. Wow. You don't want to be doing big sweeps up the neck with this because you could impale yourself on that. But that's lovely. He's just showing off. That's difficult to do. So he decided, what the heck, I'm going to show off the fact that I could make a real pointy point there.
So from hand tilted the other way. Maybe.
Back this way?
Yes.
There we go. Sure thing. Good. I'll be Carol Merrill here. Look at that figured sapele. And we've got redwood on the top. There's redwood and then there's redwood. There's redwood that your lawn furniture is made out of, and then there's redwood that's good sounding for instruments. And Michael Propsom, being up there in the Pacific Northwest, has a stash of really good sounding redwood. Redwood is really coming in as a top wood, as all sorts of woods are getting more and more rare, difficult to find and difficult to ship. We're looking into lots and lots of alternate woods that really do sound great. There's more than one flavor in the box of chocolates. It doesn't have to be rosewood or mahogany and spruce. There's lots of other flavors. We'll play this one a little bit and then get you on the road, get you back to lunch. That's crazy. A little guitar like this has that kind of punch and volume. Wonderful. This one is strung with, oh, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. This one is strung with 80-20 strings. 80-20 bronze, I think on small body guitars, tends to make them sound better. It's all about preference. There's, not to get too Bob Ross about the whole thing, but he was right. There are no mistakes. If you like the sound of it, it really is a good guitar. If you like it, it's a great. If you love it, it's a great guitar. That's it. You're kind of done. So my suggestion is when people are saying, I don't know where to start when I'm buying a guitar, come into a shop that has lots of great guitars. I can think of a couple. Hit me up. I'll send you a list. It's a very short list. Come on in and play everything. Play everything in a shop like that. There's Griffin down in Palo Alto. There's Eric Schoenberg over in Tiburon. There's lots of great shops around. Tall Toad in Petaluma. Sylvan down in Santa Cruz. Wonderful shops. Head on in and play everything, and let the vibe be your guide. If it jumps up and grabs you and says, I'm yours, that's the best of all. That's the holy grail, is when the guitar tells you that it's yours. I've had that happen a couple of times, and it's just a tremendous feeling to know that you got the right guitar, because there's so many. You think, oh, I don't know what kind of woods. People talk about string spacing. They talk about what the braces are made of. I'm all for a little bit of geekery, but my goodness, the bottom line for most of us is it fun to play? Does it sound really good? I think those ought to be the primary considerations. So the way to find that guitar, or those guitars, for those of us lucky to consider having more than one of these, is to play tons of guitars. And just give them a quick hit. Just sit down, play, give them a little strum, a little pick here and there, and see which ones light you up. Set those aside. Come in and play everything. Play everything and see if something really rises to the top for you. And it may surprise you, because little guitars aren't quiet necessarily. They're not stingy with tone, and they may suit you a whole lot better than that dreadnought that's hiding out under your bed in the spare room now that the kids have gone off to college, unplayed. So that's what I say right there, and you're welcome for my opinion. Right. Well, thanks for tuning in. This has been the Friday Noontime webcast. Tune in next Friday if you can. And like I say, tonight, the Quitters, myself and Glenn Houston, will be playing at the UU at the Devil Mountain Coffee House in Walnut Creek, California, right there in the Tri-Cities area. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And then on Sunday, we will also be playing an early-ish show in Saratoga, California, at a place called Cafe Pink House. That'll be a true in production, and looking forward to that. That's a whole new venue for us. We'll be there at 6 o'clock on Sunday. So tune us in. You can friend us up. Friend is a verb now. Or no, I guess you like us, don't you? Since it's a band page, you can like the band page. Look for the Quitters Duo. You'll see a picture of myself and Glenn Houston there somewhere. And hit the Mighty Fine Guitars page. Like that page if you would like to as well. I've got a band page for myself and a personal page as well. So with all those options, boy, you could do a heap of clicking this afternoon. Well, yes, another question.
What was that last guitar you played?
This last guitar I played is a Michael Propsom. This is a size 1. This is $4,700. It's got redwood top and figured sapele back and sides. And a little review on the other ones. We looked at the Martin, the 1972 Martin, 016 NY. This has got silken steel strings. Has to be strung really light. You could never put regular steel strings on this guitar. You could go with silken steel, maybe extra light bronze strings, or classical strings. These guitars were designed to be folk guitars back in the late 50s and early 60s. They're lovely, and this is probably the steel of the century in here right now. And we looked at the Jamie Kinscherff, which is one of the guitars that I pick up when I have the tough decision to make of what guitar am I going to play while I give this guitar lesson today. I often land on the Kinscherff. So, open D, yeah. Well, I'll tune it up for next time and play it for you again. So thanks again for tuning in, folks. Stevie Coyle here for myself and Miss Valerie May, signing off from Mighty Fine Guitars in Lafayette, California. Down the road.